James Simon, I guess, is stepping up at practice. And I just wanted to get your opinion on this, Gerald. What do you think this means overall for James Simon? What do you think this means overall for the running back situation?
Yeah, I think it's two different things, right? I think for the running back situation, like let's be real, after CJ Baxter, it's pretty muddy at that at that running back spot. Like Weisner, Gibson, Clark, like, and now Simon. There's not a ton of separation from what I've seen. Guys have been injured. Guys haven't really done much on the field, right? We saw Jared Gibson play a little bit and then get benched, right? Weisner was great for Texas last year, hit 1,000 yards, but ultimately we saw some of his limitations as a player and kind of why he was ranked where he was. And that's no shot at him. Like he's a guy who will forever be like, he stepped up, 3-star kid, did his thing, right? So no shots at him, but it's moderately concerning for me for the running back room that, like, who is that second guy, right? Because if James Simon coming in, he's not necessarily the 5-star kid that Texas. He's a top 200 kid, but like he's not the Bijan Robinson. He's not the guy who you expect to show up on campus and be one of the better running backs. And so he doesn't really like. He doesn't, and maybe this is how he's not really that different from the other guys in the room, right? I think Texas really lacks at right now a kind of a game-breaking speed kind of guy. And so, if that was his game, it would make sense why he was stepping up, but he's not really. He's like 5'11", 200 and something pounds, right at 200, maybe 195. So like there's a lot of mud in the middle of that running back room. And so I think for Texas, like, Sark is unafraid to just play the best of the guys, regardless of who it is, which I think that's a good thing, right? So he's like a slightly taller Jarrett Gibson, I feel like, at this point, but he is probably one of the better receivers they have in the room. So maybe that's where he's been able to make a name for himself. It's hard to tell at this point.
No, I kind of agree. And I'm on the side of, I used to be more worried about the tight end than we obviously got Jack Andrews. But number 2 for me was running back. And because I don't know what CJ Baxter is going to be, he basically tore up everything in his knee. He's coming back. We'll see how he does. And then Christian Clark coming off an Achilles. That's really hard to recover from.
Jonathan Gray.
Yeah. We don't want that to happen again. Trey Weisner, good player, but he's just not when you look at national championship teams and the running back situations, Trey Weisner is not a lead back. That's just the reality of the situation. And that's not a shot at him. He's outshot that 3-star that he got coming out of high school, but that's just the reality of the situation. And then you have Jarrett Gibson, who I like him, but my God, did he have some fumbling issues last year? It was really bad. I think he had like 3 fumbles in the Florida game at one point. He was either 2 or 3. So it was really bad. Obviously, we know Jaden Blue struggled with that his whole career at Texas. And that's something, honestly, guys, if you look at the history of running backs, it's really hard to get better at ball security. It's something you're either just good at or you're not. There's very few running backs I've watched where he gets better. Even that's something that Adrian Peterson was bad at for his whole career. That was his worst attribute for him. So, I don't know what I think of it. I think James Simon is a good player. I said that coming out of high school. I think he's going to be a good player for Texas. I just don't think if he's your number 2 back right away, I think that's a pretty big issue for Texas. I think that says more about the room, honestly, than it does about James Simon. Because you're right. He's not spectacular really at anything. He's good at basically everything. He's good one cut back. He's got good agility. He's got okay speed. I will say his best attribute is pass catching out of the backfield, but so we're basically just going to use him like Jaden Blue at the end of the season, because that's basically what Jaden Blue was assigned to at the end of the season. And that can't be your number 2 running back. So that can be your number 3 running back. Like if you have a Keelan Robinson, that's kind of how we used him. That's perfectly fine. I have no issue with that. But you can't go a guy like Cedric Baxter coming off an injury as your number 1, or Trey Weisner, and then number 2 is James Simon. That can't be the reality of the running back room at Texas.
Yeah, it's wild to see that, because it felt like they were going to be in a better position. And Texas obviously had Tashard Choice did a really great job of recruiting that room, but I think Tashard Choice had a kind of running back that he was looking at, and I think Texas is missing out on a more diverse skill set, because I think Sark does like to run that zone, that pounding zone scheme, which makes sense to have a bigger bodied running back there. But I think you lose something with a guy like Jaden Blue, right, who is able to make one cut and then be faster than geometry on the field, right? Nobody's angles are good enough to catch that kid. So for me, as it comes into fall, I'm not super confident in that aspect of the game. And so, especially, and I keep coming back to this, especially in a year with a first time starter at quarterback, right? Having a consistent running game, being able to use play action, being able to allow defenses to back off a little bit and not have a key on what he's doing. That is so important for Arch Manning coming in. Ohio State is going to try to rattle him early. So having a running back that can crack off a couple of big runs and make them guess and make them have to play a little bit more honest, it's going to be really important for Texas. So again, this is not meant to be the dump on James Simon hour. That's not what we're doing here. But I would say for the state of the running back room, it's not, at least reading the tea leaves from where I'm at, it's not an encouraging sign based on what they've got going on.
No, and that's the thing too, what worries me as well. I've heard like every name every other week. So that tells me there's really no one stepping up consistently. It's kind of like the flavor of the week there at the running
Yeah.
back room, which again, that's kind of what we did last year. It was like whoever had the hot hand, feed it. But that doesn't work when you get to high level competition. It just doesn't. Like we saw who won the national championship last year. Look at what Ohio State had in the backfield. Look at what those Alabama teams had in the backfield. Look at what Georgia had in the backfield. There was always like a two-headed monster everywhere you look at college football national championships. Even Michigan had Blake Corum and then Donovan Edwards to a lesser extent. We don't have that right now, and that worries me. Now, if CJ Baxter comes back and he's completely healthy halfway through the season, that will put my worries to bed, because I said last year, if CJ Baxter's healthy and Jane Blue's healthy at the beginning of the season, I thought that was one of the 2 or 3 best combinations in the SEC. Problem was CJ Baxter gets hurt like a month after I said that, and we saw what happened last year, and Jane Blue kind of didn't live up to the expectations we had for him here at Texas. So someone's either going to have to step up out of that room, or CJ Baxter's just going to have to get healthier quicker, I guess, for that room to be okay, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think Texas, they haven't. The one thing that gives me a little bit of a less like pause or anxiety is what I mentioned. We were talking about the portal additions, right? Texas hasn't really been tied to any portal running backs at this point. They haven't, anybody that's popped in, you've never seen Texas tied to them, which generally means that they're pretty content with what they have at the room. If they don't like what they have at the room, they are not shy about going and getting and paying people to come and commit to Texas. So the fact that they haven't done that means that probably CJ Baxter is going to be in a good position, and most of his lack of action in the spring is mainly just to give him some more time to rest up, right? And that they feel okay with what they've got in the running back room.
No, I think that's a fantastic point, because you're right. Sark will immediately call out if someone asks him, what do you need? And he'll say, yeah, straight up. He said it. I need a wide receiver, a tight end, and some defensive linemen. And what did they go get? Wide receiver, tight end, defensive lineman. So if he sees it and he's like, I can ride with this running back room, then I'm going to trust him, because so far he's hitting about 1,000% on his transfer recruiting. I mean, there are guys that we pulled in didn't work, but they're I understood why we brought them in. So
yeah,
I'm not going to fault him for that. But I agree. And again, like we both said, this is not a hit on James Simon. Like I said, we both said he's going to be a good player for Texas. I think we're both confident in that. Just he's not that 5-star blue chip guy you want playing right away for Texas.
And we got spoiled, right? Texas fans got spoiled because we went from Bijan and Roshan to Jonathan Brooks, and so now we're a little spoiled at running back, and it was an embarrassment of riches. So maybe we're finding out how the other half lives.
No, that's very true. We have been very spoiled. And, you can't be great at every position. I think we're going to be pretty damn good at offensive line. We're going to be good at quarterback. As long as the wide receivers are healthy, I think we'll be good there as well. If we're a little bit weak at running back, I think we can survive that. And also, I think they want to get more downhill in the running back room with their running backs going downhill and more power run game. I think I will say this room is way more set up for that than it is the one cut type system. Like if you just want to get straight downhill, Jared Gibson's a bull. Christian Clark can be a bull. Cedric Baxter can definitely be a bull. We've seen that.
Yep.